It's loading.
We're live. Live?
Yep.
All right, everybody. Welcome to I Bleed Orange Sports Network. We're excited about tonight. We got Levon Kirkland on, and just want to mention a few things before we get started. Want to mention a couple of our sponsors. We want to talk a little bit about Pendleton Candy Company in Pendleton. They've actually expanded. They've got a bigger office now. And Wake and Bake over in Anderson has now got a new restaurant in Pendleton. And also, we'd like to welcome the Clemson Marina. They're going to be doing the Clemson Georgia game this year. So, anyways, I've been excited all week about this. We got a special guest on here, and we appreciate him coming on. His name's Levon Kirkland. A lot of y'all probably know him. So, without any further ado, welcome, Levon. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you guys for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
We've had a lot.
Great to meet you and get a chance to talk to you. Obviously, this is a new video podcast that we got started, and you're one of our first guests, and so it's a pleasure.
Oh man, no, it's my pleasure. I really appreciate being the first one. It's always good.
It's about our seventh one. We started, I believe, ours started about 7 years ago, and the Sports Network started about a year and a half ago, and we started the podcast like 1st of December. And
right.
It's about the seventh one. We took a little break around Christmas.
Okay, that's understandable. Yes.
You know Ben Hall?
Yes.
We had him on there. Grayson Marshall was on here about a week or two ago. So I think that those guys know you. So you went to Clemson. What made you decide to go to Clemson?
Whoa, wow. It was an easy choice for me. I wasn't really a Clemson or Carolina fan when I was getting recruited or even when I was a youngster watching football. But when I came here, I just fell in love with the place and I fell in love with the people.
That's what everybody said.
And Danny Ford was very convincing on our airplane ride back. And I felt like it was the place for me to go. I felt really good about it. Something in my soul said this was your place. And I can say that I did not regret it. It was a great decision on my part. It really worked out for me. God really blessed me in so many ways. So really, I think just visiting Clemson and meeting the people and the atmosphere, that combination really pushed me to be a Clemson Tiger.
Yeah. I tell people
there's always something in these hills.
Yeah, I tell people never been to a Clemson game or never been to Clemson. You can't really explain it. You just got to experience it. I've had some people move down from up north that want to go to a game. What's it like? I said, man, I can try to explain it to you, but until you go and you experience the atmosphere of Death Valley on a Saturday, you just got to experience it. There's no place like it, in my opinion.
Well, I can tell you a good story with that. My wife, who's now deceased for over 10 years, when we first came to a Clemson game, she was a big sports person, and she watched college ball and she watched Clemson run down the hill.
Yeah,
but she didn't see it in person. I'm like, it's gonna blow your mind. And she was like, well, we'll see. And we were on the sideline, and the guys came down the hill, and we went back up to our seats, and she was just like, okay, you were right. You were right. So that's the experience I got from someone else. But my personal experience is when you're on top of that hill, it's the most exuberating feeling ever. Yeah, so Clemson is a special place. It's a great marketing tool. I mean, you can use it. I mean, from the Tiger Paw to the hill, uh, to the sunsets. I mean, it's really an amazing place.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the stuff in the stadium has changed since you played. So,
yes,
that video board is like 10 times huger than it was
that's a lot
when you were there.
Oh, well, yeah, of course. And another change is, my name is on the stadium. That's another change from
I've seen that.
place.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's changed a lot. It's really did a good. I think Clemson's really done a good job of adapting with the times and really being proactive as far as changes that need to be made. And as far as the football program, we got to really thank Coach Sweeney for doing such a good job of
Oh
making
yeah.
that program one of
Yeah.
the best programs in the country.
Oh,
Yes.
definitely, definitely.
Absolutely.
He's changed that.
Now, when you were there and being under Danny, like was it fun being under Danny Ford, or was he one of those hard working coaches like pushed you to the limits?
It was a combination of both.
I can see that.
I thought it was fun, but we worked really hard. There was
Yeah.
no question. We were a tough team. We were a very physical team. I don't think there were many teams as physical as we were, and that's because Danny Ford had that kind of mindset. So we were going to be physical. We were going to give you a fight no matter what happens, whether we win or lose. But it was a lot of fun too because we were winning, and for me, the competition on our team, going against certain guys was so good. You really appreciate it when it came to Saturday. So Saturdays in Death Valley or wherever we played was amazing. It was a lot of fun because I felt like we were ready. I felt like we were prepared to win. And like I said, it's nothing better than winning, especially when you're winning on the road.
Oh
Yeah.
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 I will say there's nothing like more exciting than the Clemson Georgia rivalry that we had during that time. Like that, I mean, today it just I don't know, it doesn't really feel the same than it did back in those days.
Well, I think the game was so physical back then. We kind of played in the box, and so it was the best man win. You had to beat your 1-on-1.
Yeah.
And both teams were very good. Vince Dooley back in that time did a good job with the Georgia Bulldogs. Danny Ford, of course, did a great job with us. And you knew it was going to be a close game. You knew that both teams were tough and they were prepared. It was just going to be one of, just a few plays here and there that was going to really make the difference. And that's how it was. And that's why it was such a great rivalry, especially in the mid '80s on to the early '90s.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Real
it's
physical.
like I said. I saw one of the classics a couple days ago. Just happened to be scrolling through YouTube, and it came up, and I was like, I gotta watch this. And I'm telling you, man, it's just some hard hitting, yeah, just nose, hands in the dirt, like just
Yeah.
some great playing. And I miss those days, that hard nosed football.
So
Yeah, I really enjoy those times too because it was really I thought it was football at its best, really,
I think so.
because
I agree.
you had to really you had to be a man in there.
Yeah,
You
Yeah.
really did, and the targeting rule wasn't there. I know sometimes they're thinking safety, but I think back then football was kind of at its really purest form, where
Okay.
you had good defense,
yeah,
you had good offense, where a kickoff could make a difference. So I enjoyed my time in the era that I played in.
yeah. And
So
that's what I was
look,
saying. Not that football's gotten too soft, but I mean, there's times now where these defensive guys are afraid to hit somebody.
Well,
yeah,
I
especially
think it
quarterback.
I think it made it. I think the rules have made it very hard for a
Yeah.
defensive player to play the way you're supposed to play, and I think also what you've done is you've taken away the art of defense. And what I mean by the art of defense is that nowadays you can't really intimidate guys. Defense back then, maybe you don't sack the quarterback, but you give him a hit maybe 2 seconds after he throws the ball, and you let him know that, hey, we're going to be coming all day long. It doesn't matter if we sack you, but we're going to get in your head.
Yeah.
Or if a receiver runs across the middle and if he doesn't catch the ball, he still gets tattooed to make him think like, man, I really need to use caution when I go across this middle because these guys are not playing around.
Yeah.
And I think that they took away that part of the game. And that's why it looks softer. That's why I think that they have to really think. And in the game of football, especially on the defensive side, you just want to see it and react to it.
Yeah.
And it's they kind of taken away that portion of the game. And that's why I feel like the fans and, players that played before look at the game in a different light. They
Right.
look
Yeah.
at it as
Yeah.
it's not as hard as it used to be. Of course they're scoring more points, but I thought the game was fine. I think the struggle between the offense and the defense made the game what it was. That's why it was so intriguing. That's
Yeah.
why it's the number one sport in
More
America,
pure.
and
Yeah.
you take that away,
Yeah.
it makes it a little tough. It makes it tougher to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the roughing the passer call a lot of times is questionable. And I mean, the Oakland Raiders of 1970s wouldn't fly today. They played a
Uh,
really close football. Broken arm, get in there and play.
yeah, man, watch
Yeah.
yourself. I mean, keep your head
Yeah.
on swivel
Yeah. Well, I
when you're
mean,
playing against teams like that.
if you talk about the NFL, I mean, yeah, Oakland Raiders was one of the hard nosed bad boys of NFL. But then look at the Steelers; they were
Steelers,
very
Yeah,
hard nosed
Bill
bad
Curtin.
boys.
yeah. Very. When I went to Pittsburgh, it reminded me a lot of Clemson as far as the fan base is concerned,
Oh, they're real
and
warriors. Yeah.
also that defensive mentality.
Yeah.
Clemson at that time when I went there, it was all about the defense. I think the fans enjoyed defense a lot more than they enjoyed offense, and it was the same
Yeah.
with Pittsburgh. As a linebacker at Pittsburgh, you were probably more revered than the quarterback
Quarterback. Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
at Pittsburgh. So it was a lot of fun playing for two places that really appreciated
It's
defense,
a great,
and
great
yeah, I
football.
loved it. I mean, it
Yeah.
was a great
Pittsburgh's a
time.
great football town.
Yes,
Yeah.
it really is. Yeah.
Yeah. My family, my wife's side of the family is all from Pittsburgh, so I get to go
Oh
up there every
boy.
so often. So I'm
So
I'm not a Pittsburgh fan, but
I'm a Cowboys fan. So
Oh, you guys are. Oh
yeah,
man.
I know I catch it, but I will pull for Pittsburgh as long as they're not playing Dallas. But I'm always
Okay.
going for
Well,
Pittsburgh.
I think you need to. I think you need to get saved, as they say in church.
I knew I'd catch it when I told you
Come
that.
come from come from your sinful ways, and
I catch
come
it all year. I caught it when we lost to
come to Pittsburgh. Yeah,
the
yeah. You
I
just need
I
to
have
give
to
your
say
soul up to God.
I grew up being a Redskins fan, so
Yeah,
Right.
well,
Poor
there
guy.
it is.
Uh,
and then when the Panthers came to Charlotte, I kind of had to feel like it took me a minute. I didn't right away jump on that train, but a few years later, after 98, 97, I think it was, I finally said, okay, I'll jump on the Panther train.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. Well, I can understand that. Because what they've been around since maybe 95,
Yeah,
96. So
95.
yeah,
Their
yeah.
yeah.
their inaugural season was played at Death Valley.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I
That's
remember.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes,
Right
yes.
here.
But yeah, I mean, I was a Cowboy fan because basically that's what you saw on TV. You saw the
Yeah.
Cowboys,
Back in the day.
you saw the Steelers, you saw the Redskins, you saw everything on the NFC East. And
Mm-hmm.
then because Pittsburgh
We
was
only
so
got
good
like
back
three
in that
channels
time,
back then.
Yeah.
you only had
Well, in
two distinct
1977,
channels.
the day Elvis died, we moved to Spartanburg. You had the antennas, and you got three
Right.
channels, and you put the tinfoil up there, you get four. And growing up as a kid, they had Dallas, they had best looking cheerleaders, and Rogers started they're winning games.
Yeah, yeah.
That's how I became a
They
Cowboys
look really
fan.
clean.
Yeah.
I just thought they
But
looked really clean. That's why I liked them. But the one thing about having only 3 to 4 channels, if Billy Graham ever came on, that was all. It was all she wrote. Billy Graham was on every channel, and you could not turn away from it. But it was simpler times, but it was great times back then.
yeah.
Yeah, life, a
Well,
lot
if you
simpler
want to
back
watch a Dallas Cowboys Super Bowl, you have to break out the VCR.
Yes, he
then. I hear
did.
you. I hear you.
Yes.
I hear you. It's rough. I
That's
know.
funny. So, Levon, what's your thoughts on the today's transfer portal?
Oh wow. Well, I can see where guys may want to go into it. Especially if you're. I think it's better if you graduate, and then if you graduated from your school that you were previously at, and you want to go and play some more. I totally get it, and I mean I get it. Guys want to play. Um, I think it's you know I think it's tough for fans now because
Yeah.
you don't really get to see that guy develop and be on
Yeah.
your team.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when basketball went to one and done. When we were we were coming up, you're watching the ACC championship. Those guys grew up in front of you. They were there for 3 to 4 years. And I
Yeah.
think that's really, it changed the game in such a way that now you don't see those guys develop. You don't see that guy from that freshman year, and
Yeah.
then you see him in his junior year. And a lot of times, man, I really miss the growth. And when you're seeing a guy grow up and become a better player, a better human being, now he's a young man. And I think that's the thing about it that a lot of people don't like, that, guy can just leave at any time and be in the portal. So I'm kind of indifferent to it in ways, but I think in a lot of ways, I think it could hurt a young man's growth, especially if he doesn't graduate. I think that's
Yeah.
the hard part. And
Yeah.
then there's a lot of guys who are still in the portal with nowhere to go. I think that's a tough situation.
Yeah. Well, I think in my opinion, it's changing the whole word commitment too. Like, when you got these coaches that are spending so much time recruiting a player, and you know how much time they spent talking to you, and in some cases they spend more time on other players, but
Right.
then they say, "Hey, I'm gonna commit," and 1 year later they're out.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I see what you're saying. I see that, you know, I can see it from that standpoint. And then, some people may say, well, if a coach can leave and go somewhere else, why can't players do the same?
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's a little different. I think that you're talking about, the separations between adults and young men. So a lot of times, I always felt that college was always the buffer between high school and real life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
During the college years, you can grow up as a man. You can find out who you are. And football, the beauty of football is, you understand what it is to go against trying times. You know how what it is to get knocked down and get back up. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of times the game helps you become a better man.
I agree.
But when you take the development away from it, it's a little tough. So
Yeah.
I think sometimes decisions are maybe made by people who've never been on the front lines,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and sometimes they don't understand that. But those are rules we live by, and we have to adjust to them. I wish there was a better way. Hopefully, it will become better. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know that with the NIL, they're using that now to help recruit, and I mean, I'm happy that the college is allowing for NIL deals. I feel like there's going to need to be some bigger rules put in place. I mean, I know Florida State right now is in some hot water over some NIL violations, but uh, I think NIL has definitely changed the face of college football.
Yeah, it definitely has, and I think it's here to stay. In a lot of ways, I think it's good because players do get to brand themselves. They get to use their name, image, and likeness, and I don't think that's a bad thing
Yeah.
at all. I really don't. I think it was maybe put out there a little earlier without really any rules or regulations, and it turned into something that almost like the toothpaste when you squeeze the toothpaste out and you try to put it back in. You know,
It did
I
happen.
think
Yeah.
that's kind of what you're looking at, but hopefully things will calm down, and we just have to educate people about name, image, and likeness and what it really is, and
Right.
I think that it could be a very good thing for the athletes. I think it's a good way for guys to, because everybody's not going to go to the NFL. I mean, probably 98% of
Right.
young men that play in college probably won't play in the NFL. But it's a good way to get a nice start in life, and if you can
Yeah.
invest your money
Yeah.
correctly, you can have a nice jump start.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
and also it could maybe be something that lasts for a long time. So hopefully we can get these young men to really take advantage of it and make it their benefit.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I
you were
agree.
born in Lamar, South Carolina. That's kind of near Columbia.
Correct.
That's South Columbia,
Well,
right?
it's more so in Darlington County. It's about
Oh, okay,
70
going
miles.
toward.
It's about 70 miles southeast of Columbia.
Okay, in
Yeah.
Darlington. Okay,
Yes, Darlington
so
County.
so did you
Yes.
go to high school down there? Because I
I
wasn't
went to
sure.
Lamar High School. Yes.
Okay, so
hmm
like as a kid, just when you were a kid, did you ever imagine that one day you'd end up in the NFL, or you just started playing football when you were young and you loved the game? And was that
Well,
a
I
dream of
did.
yours?
I actually did imagine that I would play in the
That's
NFL.
awesome, man. Yeah,
That's kind of how it happened for me. I kind of manifested before we started saying manifestation. And
yeah,
I tell you what I did. I had a football or one of those Morton salt shakers or salt
yeah,
cylinders, and I was throwing it up in the air, and I remember catching it, and I told myself I was going to play pro football one day.
yeah.
Had
Nice.
no clue how that was going to happen,
A lot of times it has
but
to
I
be in
really,
your mind
I,
first.
I really believed it.
Yeah.
And what happened was I never played organized football until I got to high school. And my 10th grade year, I got in a little trouble because I didn't go to practice, and I had to ask my father to go practice all the time, and I skipped a couple of days where I didn't ask him, so I didn't go to practice. So
Uh-huh.
my coach Terry Cyrus called me in, and he let me have it. But he also encouraged me. He told me that if I commit to the game, that I could go to the next level.
Yeah.
And when he told me that, I totally believed it. I just like, okay. And
Hmm.
from that point on, I committed myself to the game. Did not miss a practice. Did
Yeah.
not miss a game ever. Was really blessed by God to have such a nice career.
Yeah.
So yeah. So from when I was young, I always wanted to play the game, and then I had brothers and cousins that played before me, and I had a cousin that played. We were the same age, and we played. And man, I just wanted to play the game better. you know, I just wanted to. I was in love with the game like nothing else.
Oh
I
yeah.
didn't really. I mean, I didn't have to go to parties. I didn't really. I didn't have to do anything, but I had to play football,
Yeah.
and
It's your
it, it
passion.
was my it was my heart and
And
soul.
you,
It was my first
yeah.
girlfriend.
And
Yeah,
you've got to live the dream, man.
I really did. I really
Yeah.
did.
I
Like
mean,
I
two
said,
percent of all college players or less go. If you don't mind, I'll
yeah.
read a couple of things. 11 years in the National Football League, Pittsburgh Steelers, two-time All-Pro, two-time Pro Bowl selection, NFL 1990s All-Decade Team, um, first team All-Pro 1997, second team All-Pro 1996, NFL Linebacker of the Year 97. And then I guess we're getting back to Clemson. Consensus All American 1991, second team All American 1990. Impressive. One defensive touchdown. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You had 1,026 tackles, 19.5 sacks, 11 interceptions, 16 forced fumbles, 19 recoveries. That's cool. That's
It's
cool.
not
So, what
bad.
was it
It's
like?
not.
Huh? What was it
No,
like when
I'm
you
just
got
saying
that
it's
call?
not bad. It's
Yeah,
not bad
not
at
bad.
all.
Not a lot of people can say that.
Right.
Dabo always, one thing I respect about Dabo, he brings the player in and he puts the player first as a man because he knows that about 2% are actually going to go and play professional ball. And then, groom them as a man, get them ready for life. And then they're one of the 2%. They get to go to the NFL and live their dream and make a good living doing that. They should be paid and make a good living because not everybody gets to that level. And I think I heard somewhere like average player plays like 7 years or 6 years. So you actually play
No,
more than average.
it's way less than that. They play like
Is it?
maybe 3 years.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
you had it. I mean, you didn't do Tom Brady, but you played about what 12, 13 years.
Yeah, playing for a linebacker.
That's
That's
a
pretty
lot.
long time.
It's a
Yeah,
physical game.
Now you were under Bill Cowher, right?
correct.
Yeah.
Now, what was he like?
He was a tough guy, but he was also a what we call a player's coach. And I say that when I say that, it's a person who really has a good rapport with the players, and he's able to relate to the players, whether he played in the league or not, and he formulates individual relationships. And I think that that was one of the best things about Bill Cowher. He he really got to know the player as an individual,
Yeah.
and he really appreciate you as a man. It didn't, because the game is. I mean, it's a tough business. It's a business, and sometimes coaches tend to look at players or treat players like product, like not really being
Right.
human.
Human.
I
Yeah.
thought that as tough as a business as it was, I thought that Bill Cowher did a good job of relaying to the players, developing relationships, and being fair and honest. And I think that's all you can really be um, when you're talking about relationships is to be fair and to be honest. And although you may not like it always, I think you do appreciate it at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. I will say he has one of the ugliest mad faces I've ever seen on a coach.
You should see it up close and personal. Yeah, it's
Yelling at
something to behold. he,
Yeah,
he, but you know what? Too, he knew how to play it too. I mean, he knew that it was entertaining, and he knew that the television ended up. They love that. They love that scowl, and he played into the stereotype. But I've always had a really good relationship with him. It was a lot of laughter as well. But
that's good. That's
Bill
good.
was intense, and that was authentic, and it was true. So you just kind of roll with it. But it was funny. I thought it was funny a lot of times because I knew that he was playing toward the camera. He was giving them what they wanted to see.
Yeah. Well, I've always enjoyed watching him as a coach, and I know when he retired from the Steelers, there was a brief moment where it was possible the Panthers was going to get him out of retirement to come and coach, and I was just like, oh, please, please.
All
But
right.
I don't think that's going to happen now.
No, I think he's in a good place.
Yeah.
He suffered the loss of his wife.
Oh
And
man.
I think football would have been too much because Bill is such an energy guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think if he could, if he thought that he couldn't give the energy that he's accustomed to giving and what he gave with the Pittsburgh Steelers, he will be doing whatever team he's coaching an injustice. So I can understand why he did not coach anymore, even though I thought for sure he was going to coach again. I really did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to come out of retirement there too for a minute, but I was just
Right.
like, I don't know. I mean, I think what was he working on, Fox or something like that at the time?
He's working at CBS, I think.
Was it
CBS. Yeah.
CBS?
CBS.
Okay, I
CBS.
couldn't
Yes.
remember. It was one of those major programs, and I was just like, I don't know if he's going to leave that. I think he enjoys doing that.
That seems like a really good job, actually. So
Yeah,
I can understand why
A lot of
you
people
would
do that.
want all the issues that you have with football, all the responsibilities you have in coaching the team, the grind of it all. So I can understand that. Hey, I get in front of the camera for a few hours. I talk about something that I love to talk about. I can see why he might choose
yeah,
that job instead of probably being a head coach.
Yeah.
yeah. I agree.
A lot of people.
Um, what's your thoughts on Tomlin right now? Do you think he's on the hot seat?
I don't really think he's on the hot seat. I think that maybe if you look at it from the outside looking in, I think he's done a pretty decent job. If I was to give my candid thoughts or opinion, I think it's more so due with the personnel than the coach. I think he's
Yeah,
done a pretty good job with the guys he have to making them be at least over 500. Nowadays, if you don't really have a great quarterback, it's tougher. Not saying it can't be done,
Yeah.
but it's tougher to win
Yeah.
yeah,
because most teams are probably averaging around 30 points, and the only way you get to 30 points if you have a guy who can really throw the ball, who really take command of the offense and march them down the field. And I'm not sure they have that guy just yet. So
I mean, Big Ben was a hard guy to replace, though.
yeah, but maybe they probably should have replaced him earlier than they did.
Yeah, he had a lot of injuries.
Yeah, I think sometimes we have a quarterback that great and that kind of a Hall of Famer package he was in, you kind of think that they're always going to pull it through. You know, it's just like when Mike Tyson was boxing and he came back, and you just think like, man, they got a puncher's chance. That's Mike Tyson. He can win the championship again. And then when you see him go against a Lennox Lewis and he's totally outclassed, then you're like, okay, well, maybe not so much.
Yeah.
So, I think that's what happened to Ben.
Everybody's career.
I thought that the team really kept him a little longer than they should have.
Yeah. I think, you could say the same about a couple quarterbacks in the league, like Eli Manning. I kind of felt like, did they let him stay 1 year too long?
Well, the quarterback position is different. It's and in a way, the quarterbacks really, if you ever notice, the quarterback position, especially if you have a starter, is not really a competition between the other guys. It's more of an entourage. They're going to surround him with guys who are not as good to kind of keep his ego going, because they are as great as they are, they're also kind of fragile too.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times, most smart organizations, they know how to stroke their guy, and a lot of times, they do keep him a little longer than they should. So I think the quarterback position is so different than any other position. It's a position that, like I said before, it's probably not about competition. You want that main guy to be your one. And the other guys that are backing him up are just guys that are going to be patting him on his back, giving him a massage, being his best friend. Where in other positions, man, you're competing. They're bringing in somebody every year to knock you off your pedestal. So so the nature of the game. I think people tend to hold on to quarterbacks a little bit longer than other positions.
Right.
Now, what I gotta ask. So, out of all the quarterbacks in the NFL, what was your most favorite to sack?
Ooh, I don't know. I like sacking all of them, to be honest with you.
That's a favorite thing for a linebacker to do.
Yeah, if you get a chance,
I was like, was there that one quarterback that you was like, man, I gotta hit him?
Honestly, I enjoy pass coverage more than anything.
Yeah.
So I like interceptions.
Yeah.
More so than anything else. Most people think that because I was a big guy and that I like just smashing people, and I did, but I like interceptions.
Yeah.
I really did, because I thought that was more of a skill.
One of the coolest things for a fan, anyways, is to see a defensive touchdown. Do you remember that touchdown you scored?
Oh yeah, it was
a fumble or an interception.
It was a fumble that time. It was
scoop up.
It was a scoop up. Greg Lloyd did a great job. We had this blitz going on, and he did a great job of really sacking the quarterback, making them fumble. And the ball was just kind of rolling. I was hustling, and I was able to scoop it up, and a couple of guys dove at my legs, and I think I went in for like maybe 46 yards.
So it's one of it's always good to see a big guy running down defense.
Yeah, man, it was cool.
John Madden said it the greatest. He said, when you get a big man touchdown, you get a big man dance.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And actually, two guys missed me. So they're trying to tackle me, man. But I kept my balance and I stayed in bounds, and it was glorious, man. It really was.
So you might know him or you may not, but he used to be my neighbor. He kind of moved away from me. I'm still mad at him for moving away, because me and him used to have some great times. But Luther Broughton played for the Philadelphia Eagles right after you got there. I think he was just coming out, and he was a tight end, played for the Panthers as a tight end, and he had the longest touchdown for a tight end for the Panthers. And when I still give him hell to this day on the dance that he did after the touchdown.
You know, sometimes you're really tired, and sometimes you you get there and you're just like, what do I do next? And he was probably in the middle of, I'm very tired, but I got to do something, and that was the results you got.
Yeah.
That dance, yeah.
I give him a hard time all the time. I'm like, what were you thinking? Like the answer you get, it's the funniest thing ever.
Yeah, man.
But
There's a lot of
unfortunately,
funny
Greg
things that
Olson
go
broke
on out
his
there.
longest touchdown record. So,
Oh, okay, yeah, Greg Olson.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does a
So,
good job on Fox. He
oh
really
yeah,
does.
yeah, he was one of our greatest Panther players too.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Yeah, no question. You guys have had some tight ends.
yeah, yes,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
we just gotta get back to the glory days. I don't know
Yeah,
what this
man.
new owner's
The
doing, but
Your
guy
Panther fans are a rough year.
the
he's
guy I
tearing us
like
apart. It seems
guy
like.
the guy I like was Wesley, the tight end y'all had.
Oh yeah, yes.
Yeah, he was a good player. He really was.
Yeah, he was good too. Yeah. So, what was the moment when you got to the NFL that you were just
I'll
like,
be right
"Wow, I'm in the NFL right now"?
back.
Oh boy, probably the first day, the first practice you go to, and you're seeing these grown men, guys you probably never heard of, and you're watching them, and you're like, wow, they're all good. They're all good.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to really earn my. And you realize that although being drafted is an amazing experience, you realize that it was just like kind of a honeymoon.
yeah,
Now you got to go to work,
yeah. So
and
it
you
was,
got.
I guess back then it was different a little bit how they did the draft than they do today. It's more televised, more
Oh yeah.
than it used to be. What was it like to get that call that Pittsburgh was going to be taking you?
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, it's you dream of it as a kid, and I was 11 years old when I made that declaration that I was going to play, and to finally get that phone call, I mean, it was truly life changing.
Yeah.
It really made you a believer in what God could really do,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and how He can answer
Actually
prayers.
happened. Yeah.
And I was just fortunate. I don't know if I call it fortunate, blessed, or however you want to call it. It really worked out. God really set it up that it worked out for me, and I was able to go to the right team, and that's a part
Yeah.
of it. You know,
yeah,
it's going to the right team. I didn't have a lot of injuries at all. I never missed a game, and also I was able to play with some really really great players.
Yeah.
And when environment means everything.
Yeah.
So I was able to go to a great environment. I was
yeah,
in a great environment at Clemson, and then being able to go to another great environment was truly a blessing for me. So that
Yeah.
day
I've
when I
been there.
got that phone call, it was everything.
Yeah.
That was one of the greatest days of my life.
Yeah. I bet.
awesome. So, from what I understand, I believe you're coming back to Clemson and being part of the staff now.
Well, yeah, I'm actually a part of the staff now. Maybe over a month or so that Coach Sweeney hired me and really really recruited me to come back, and I'm really happy about that.
That's awesome.
Now, can you
To
tell us what your role is?
Yeah, well, I'm the NIL coordinator,
Okay.
so we
Give me
can't
a
get
little bit
into
about
much
that.
of eligibility. I can't talk about the players,
Yeah.
but it's a challenge. I like it, and it's really cool to be in another great environment, to see a
Yeah.
leader that's amazing leader that's really cares for the whole person is great. And
Yeah.
I see why people don't want to leave. I
Yeah.
get
He's
it.
a great guy. I've met him a couple times. He's
Yeah.
And I think it's great that there's a lot of fans that like to post in social media saying Dabo doesn't like NIL and doesn't use the NIL, and I'm like, are you guys blind? Because They're building an NIL center. They're bringing, like now, you're back and helping in using the NIL and whatnot. So I think a lot of people don't realize that Clemson is one of the forefront schools on this NIL deal.
Well, I think, I think there's always some confusion about the transfer portal and NIL. I think some people lump them together, and they feel like, oh, he's not doing anything in the transfer portal. He must not like NIL, and that's not true.
Yeah. I mean, in the last few months, there's been reports of him trying to target some offensive line, some other guys in the portal. But it's just like recruiting. You can talk to them, you can try to get them to come, but they ultimately make the decision of where they're going to go.
Right. Well, I'm a witness that, and I got recruited by Coach Sweeney. He does a great job of recruiting.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to ever worry about him being able to recruit.
Yeah.
I think transfer portal is, it's like it's free agency.
Yeah. That's basically what it is.
And sometimes, there's a person that fits, and a lot of times it may not be someone who fits. So I think you have to be careful. Some teams really dive into it. Some teams are like, hey, we can build here. So
Yeah.
I think it really all depends on what really happens to your team and how, maybe how you may need to adjust.
That's one of the things that I love about Dabo and his recruiting, the way he recruits. I mean, he doesn't just go out and get young men that just want to come in here and play football. He's finding these guys that work with his culture and the same views that he has. And in my opinion, that's why guys aren't leaving very much. Like, you got guys that are coming back for their fifth year and senior year, whatever, instead of going to the NFL or whatever. They're like, nope, I'm not done. I want to come back.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you create an atmosphere and a culture, it's hard to leave. I mean, if if you ever been in the complex or been around Clemson football,
Yeah.
I think you could tell why people don't leave or why guys don't leave. It's a hard place to leave.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Why,
Absolutely.
when it's first class like it is,
Yeah.
why would you want to go? So
Yep.
he does a good job of creating an atmosphere that you can tell that he cares about the guys and he wants all our guys to graduate and he's committed to that. And I don't know too many. I don't know if a lot of schools are really committed to that,
Well,
and it makes it different.
I'm just so glad that when Nick Saban decided to retire, that everybody in the world thought, well, there goes Dabo, and I was like, no, I don't think he's going. I had no doubt that he was staying.
No doubt.
Well, I felt pretty good. I felt pretty good about it, and I felt like, man, this would be something. I just got here.
Yeah, I didn't. People contact me about it. I'm like, he's not going. I mean, why would you?
Right.
That's some tough shoes to fill.
He built this program,
yeah,
almost from the ground up after Danny Ford got us in the spotlight, and then you had a couple coaches that didn't quite get us there, and Tommy Bowden making the greatest hire of all time by hiring Dabo. And then when Dabo came in, he basically built what we have today. Why would he wouldn't need to leave?
Well, yeah, I think you're right there. I mean, he really did build this he took us to another level. And me as a former player, when I was at Clemson, I thought it was everything. I thought it was great,
Yes.
And then when you see it and the development of it, he's taken it to another level. And I don't know if many men could have done that at Clemson University, but he did.
And he said it from day one that he was going to do it.
Yeah, and he just has this passion. He's just uncommon in a lot of ways. He's a different guy, and to be able to experience that up close and personal is really cool.
Cool.
I mean, I've known him for a long time, but to be in an atmosphere where you get to see him all the time and you get to see how things work out, it's really cool to see. And I think that's why people are impressed when it comes to Clemson University. And, I think sometimes we get caught up and sometimes we get so used to success and winning. And, success is not always winning every game, or always winning the national championship.
Yep.
It's really about helping these young men become better men that can lead us into the
Absolutely.
future. And I really
Yeah.
believe when you take care of your youth, they take care of you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's a prime example of someone who takes care of his youth.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, they'll be more than willing to take care of him when they get older, when they become husbands, when they become fathers. They'll understand the value that Clemson University gives you.
Yep. And
Exactly.
that's why, I'm glad he didn't leave, but the new coach that came in behind Saban, I mean,
From Washington.
if you're not doing what Saban did, they're gonna eat him up and chew him out.
Yeah, that's a tough atmosphere to fill his shoes. What I'm saying, I wouldn't know who would really want that job.
I think anytime you come behind a legend,
Yeah,
let's say I experienced that myself with when Danny Ford left. Then you went to Ken Hatfield, and I
yeah,
always told people that I thought Ken Hatfield was a really good man. I think that maybe he wasn't right for the program, and there was a lot of expectations, and a lot of people are going to say, well, Danny would have did this way. They probably will do the same thing. And this guy just took his team to the national championship.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see what happens. It really
yeah.
will be. And I mean, Nick Saban was an icon. It's hard to come behind an icon like
No
that.
doubt about it.
Yes, absolutely. So gotta ask, what's your prediction for the Super Bowl? Who you going for?
Oh man, I hate predicting games. I really do.
I didn't want either one of these teams to be in there. I can't believe Detroit did
I
that.
wanted,
I was pulling for Detroit, the
I was
underdog.
full for the underdog, and
I was the same way.
I went for a walk right at halftime. Came back. They're ahead by 17. I went for like a 3 mile walk. Came back and it's tied. And I was
Yeah.
like,
Well,
God,
I saw Detroit. And it goes to show you that a lot of times the experience and being there could be a factor. And I think with the Ravens, uh, it was kind of one of those things where everything seems to be in your favor. Everybody's telling you that you're going to win it. Lamar Jackson is going to be the MVP and all that. But Kansas City, they've done that. They've been there. And when you have a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes,
yeah,
and you have one of the best innovators in pro football in Andy Reid, it was going to be tough. And when I saw them drive down that first drive and they
yeah,
got that touchdown, I was like, Baltimore is in for a long day.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
But I wanted, of course, I wanted the Ravens to go. I wanted Lamar Jackson to get there. I was rooting for him, but I wasn't rooting against Patrick Mahomes. I thought Patrick Mahomes did a tremendous job, and a lot of people were saying like, Tom Brady is the greatest ever played.
But look at
It's going to
Patrick.
be interesting to see after Patrick Mahomes'
Yeah,
career,
we were just talking about the other day.
will
yeah,
we
Stays healthy.
will he be the guy? I think Patrick Mahomes, up to this point, I think Patrick
Where
Mahomes
Brady was
is
and where
better.
Patrick is actually ahead of him. He just don't have the
I think Patrick
longevity.
Mahomes for the first 6 years, if you
Uh,
compare the first 6 years, I think Patrick Mahomes is definitely um, a little bit better than Tom Brady. But anyway, I kind of wanted Detroit to win as well.
yeah,
But Brock Purdy just kind of shows you, his fortitude and what he has.
yeah.
But
yeah.
who's
Brock
going to
Purdy
win this
playing.
game? Who's going to win this game? I don't know, but man, I got to put my money on Kansas City.
Uh,
Yeah.
I
I
think
I
think
do.
Kansas City. I think
they've
it's
got
gonna be a
4 out of
close
the last
game.
5 years.
Yeah,
I think Kansas City has a chance to edge it out, but San Francisco has a good defense. So
yeah. But you know what? I will
Since
always take,
McCaffrey's something else.
and I know I play defense, but I always take a good offense over a good defense.
Yeah.
Really?
It's going to come down to the battle of the tight ends.
Yeah, that could be it. And then Taylor Swift is going to come down in her helicopter and just.
That's all they talk about. I mean,
Yeah.
it's almost like it's destined to happen that way.
What's
I saw
the over under they're going to show her? How many times do you guys think that they're going to show Taylor Swift on TV?
Oh, it's gonna be every time
he makes
Kelsey gets the ball.
That's when he scores a touchdown. Yeah.
But see, I think they're aware of it now, so they won't. They're trying not to show her as much. But I'm thinking at least 5. I'm thinking 5 times. They're gonna show at least 5 times.
At least.
I have a feeling it's gonna be every time he catches the ball.
No, see, they can't do that. They can't do it every time, but they want to. Trust me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it's tempting.
It's driving up ratings. It's making money on the back end.
You know, don't get me wrong. I think Kelsey's one of the greatest tight ends, but I like Kettle.
Oh, I think they're both great, but I like Kelsey a little bit better.
Yeah. His brother, I like his brother a lot.
Not far behind. But the tight end position has become such a. These guys are so athletic and they're so tall and so big. It's a nightmare matchup for linebackers or safeties. So the tight end position has evolved in so much from being the big burly guy that you occasionally maybe throw the ball to what you're seeing now, which is basically basketball players that play football.
Yeah.
Yeah. The quarterback's the toughest jobs in football.
Travis's brother that plays for the Eagles. I really like watching him play too.
Yeah.
His brother, I tell you what, man, his brother is very athletic.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be a center, yeah.
He can move very well. He probably, I know he's going to retire, but I think he probably got a couple years left. But he's doing the right thing. When you don't feel the game, you don't have that kind of passion for it anymore. It's time to walk away.
Yeah. Well, I know the Kelsey brothers have a good podcast too, and it's good to watch.
They do actually, yeah.
They literally have me rolling. So
they got personality, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe one day our podcast will be as good as theirs.
We'll get there.
I like it.
We're just getting started. I mean,
you guys are getting started, man. You got that Southern thing going on, man. I love it.
Yeah. We started, I believe, Orange 7 years ago as a product-based business, and the sports network started a little over a year ago, and we had 38 sponsors come on board last year. We did a live show for every game, including the Gator Bowl. Did like 33 shout-out commercials, and then Rob calls me out of the blue because I was trying to get a podcast done, and I was talking to somebody, and during summertime, I lost his phone number or whatever, and he goes, "You want to do a podcast?" And I said, I guess you were an Obsolete Orange. You knew me off Facebook. And he calls up and said, I've been wanting to do one. I said, let's talk about it after Thanksgiving. And what's his name? Sanjay?
Sanjay, yeah.
Yeah.
Sanjay, something like that.
We didn't even have a podcast. And he goes, I've got these 2 girls, Jenny and what was the other girl's name?
Oh, shoot.
Anyways, they're on the road. They're on the road.
Worse with names.
Yeah.
And they live in Jacksonville, but they're going out to California this summer. And they go, can they be on your podcast? We hadn't even got it set up yet. So that was like our first podcast, and it was pretty interesting what they're doing. I don't know if you've heard about it.
Yeah, I have. I actually have. Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to row.
I need to get back in touch with them because initially I wanted to help them as well.
Yeah,
so I thought it was interesting.
We're going to sponsor them.
Yeah. Well, cool. Cool. That's good.
They're called United Row, and they're really nice ladies, and we're gonna have them back on. I think they're doing a test run or a practice run from Jacksonville
to
Charleston.
Yeah, I think.
And we're gonna try and see if we can get them in the middle of their rowing on a podcast. They talked about doing a live show with us, so
that will be interesting.
Yeah,
to say the least. Yes.
I just couldn't imagine for 60 days being in the same boat, 25 foot by 5 foot wide for 60 days.
Man, unless I'm by the shore.
I mean, physically, I could probably. Mentally, it's going to be like.
Well,
but I think after about 30 days, we get sick of each other.
I know the mind is very powerful.
Yeah,
it has to be extremely powerful and very clear. So yeah, I wish those ladies a lot of.
Yeah, and they're doing it for did some research. I'm doing it all for a good cause. So if anybody's watching this, go to their page and check them out. I know it's done through IPTE, and they're doing donations to help out women athletes.
Right.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Empowering women.
Yeah, it's Anna McLean and Jenny DeAnthony.
Anna. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I like you guys' podcast, man, and
Appreciate it,
anytime
man.
you want me to come on, man,
man, we
do my
appreciate
best to
it.
come on. Yeah.
Well, we greatly appreciate you being part of the show and being on the ground floor of it. And, we wish you luck with the whole NIL coordinating position. Glad to have you back with the Clemson family.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me back. I really appreciate it, guys.
Yeah. Are you in our Facebook group?
I'm not sure. You guys send me a link.
Yeah, we have the largest Facebook group there is in Clemson.
Yeah.
But Jeff
Send me one. I'll get on board.
We'll send you an invite. A lot of players.
I can't, I can't talk so much about it, but I mean, I can definitely give you a thumbs up or whatever.
We got you.
All right, bro.
All right, man. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
God bless.
All right.
Have a good night. Thank you.